The people closest to you can do the most damage because you're the one who gave them access. Let's get real. Most of us are trained to look for danger in the obvious places. Strangers, online threats, dramatic blow-ups, or toxic bosses. But what if I told you that the most corrosive damage in your life often doesn't come from enemies? It comes from people who claim they love you. It comes from those who share your last name. Those who sit across the dinner table. Those who say, "I'm doing this for your own good." And while the world tells you to forgive, to stay quiet, to not make a fuss, you keep justifying pain that was never supposed to be yours to carry. Some wounds don't scream, they whisper. They whisper through the sighs after a phone call with a family member. They whisper when a friend jokes about your weight in front of others. They whisper when someone you love violates a boundary you clearly set, again, and convinces you that you're the problem for noticing. This isn't about being too sensitive. This isn't about being dramatic. This is about reclaiming your peace. In a world that tells you to give it away, especially to people you're supposed to trust the most. Here's the hard truth. There are certain behaviors that should never be tolerated from anyone. Not your boss, not your spouse, not your childhood best friend, and definitely not your family. Because the moment you normalize dysfunction is the moment it starts to define you. And if you've been feeling exhausted, on edge, or emotionally numb, it might not be a mental health issue. It might be a relationship issue that's been simmering so long, it now feels like background noise. Why does this happen? Because toxic behavior from strangers is easy to label. But from family, from people who say, "I love you," that's where it gets complicated. You start second-guessing your instincts. You rationalize, you excuse, you absorb. You tell yourself things like, "They don't mean to hurt me. That's just how they are." Family comes first. But here's what you're really saying underneath those sentences. "I'll keep shrinking if it means they'll stay comfortable. I'll carry the pain if it keeps the peace." That's not love. That's emotional self-sacrifice masquerading as loyalty. And it needs to stop now. You are allowed to have limits, even with people you love. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid hardship. It teaches us to face it with clarity, strength, and unshakable principle. As Epictetus said, we cannot control what others do, but we are fully responsible for what we accept. Read that again. You are not responsible for someone else's disrespect, but you are responsible for letting it continue. Let me be clear, saying no to manipulation is not selfish. Calling out passive-aggressive behavior is not rude. Refusing to tolerate constant criticism is not disrespectful. And walking away from someone who keeps hurting you, yes, even if they're family, is not betrayal. It's survival, because if someone insists that loving them means enduring their abuse, what they're offering isn't love, it's control. Why Stoicism? Because you don't need more drama. You need more discipline. The world doesn't need more loud reactions. It needs clearer standards. Stoic philosophy isn't about shutting down your emotions. It's about not letting someone else hijack them. It's about asking yourself in every situation, what is within my control? What am I choosing to tolerate? Is this relationship building me or slowly breaking me, and then acting accordingly, calmly, firmly, consistently? You don't need another wake-up call. This is it. If you feel drained after every conversation with them, if you've started doubting your memory, your worth, your reality, if you find yourself apologizing for simply having boundaries, you're not crazy, you're not overreacting. You're waking up, and that clarity is the beginning of your freedom. In this video or article, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to show you 5 specific behaviors that you should never tolerate ever again. Not from your boss, not from your partner, not even from your family. You'll see the signs. You'll understand the psychological damage they cause. And most importantly, you'll learn how to respond with stoic strength, without guilt, without drama, and without apology. Because here's the truth. Peace isn't something you earn by suffering. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you enforce. And your mental clarity is far too precious to be auctioned off in the name of keeping the family together. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about confrontation. This is about self-respect. It's about knowing that you are allowed to protect your energy, your time, your sanity. And if someone doesn't understand that, they're not your ally, no matter how long you've known them. So before we dive in, if you're ready to stop excusing disrespect and start defending your peace, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment if you've ever had to walk away from someone who crossed too many lines, and share this with someone who's been struggling in silence, because their healing might begin the moment they realize they're not alone. You've tolerated enough. Now let's take your power back. Let's get into it. Behavior number 1. Constant criticism, the silent war on your self-worth. They didn't raise their voice, they didn't curse, but somehow, every time they spoke, you felt smaller. Welcome to the kind of abuse nobody talks about, because it doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And it whispers every single day, until your inner voice forgets what it sounds like. This is what constant criticism does. It is not feedback. It is not care. It is a psychological campaign designed to undermine, degrade, and ultimately control. Let's be clear, this is not just how they talk. This is not tough love. This is emotional warfare, and the longer you tolerate it, the deeper it carves into your identity. Real story, a marriage built on insults. Disguised as advice, a client of mine, let's call her Rachel, was married for 18 years. Her husband never yelled, never hit, never cheated. To outsiders, he looked like a calm, reasonable man. But every day, Rachel heard something like this. You really need to think before you speak. Do you even know what you're doing with your life? That outfit, you're not 20 anymore. He said it all with a smile, with concern, with just enough softness to make her doubt whether it was abuse. But the result? Rachel stopped wearing anything that made her feel confident. She stopped offering opinions in conversations. She stopped dreaming. When she finally broke down in tears during one of our sessions, her words hit like a thunderclap. I don't recognize myself anymore. I've been erased by someone who says he loves me. Here's the truth most people avoid. Words can be weapons, and when someone uses them every day to point out your flaws, question your decisions, and chip away at your worth, you are not in a relationship. You are in a war zone. Only the battlefield is invisible, and the weapon is repetition. What does constant criticism look like? You won't always spot it at first. But here are the patterns. They rarely give compliments, but always find something off. Their comments are framed as just being honest, but they never build you, only tear you down. They criticize who you are, not just what you do. They rarely take accountability for how their words make you feel. Eventually, you begin to do their job for them. You pre-criticize yourself. You filter your thoughts. You become your own jailer, because it's easier than facing theirs. This is how identity erosion works. The Stoic view: why criticism without virtue is poison. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus, yes, Stoicism welcomes critique, but only the kind that leads to growth, not the kind that diminishes your sense of self. True Stoic feedback is rooted in virtue, aimed at helping you flourish, delivered with care and clarity. But chronic criticism, that's about control. It's not about your potential. It's about shrinking you to fit their comfort zone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." So ask yourself, would a good person talk to you like this every day? If not, why are you still listening? Psychological consequences of constant criticism. Still think it's not that serious. Let's talk science. Repeated negative feedback, especially from someone close, activates the brain's threat detection system. This leads to chronic stress, hypervigilance, and long-term erosion of self-esteem. You begin to anticipate rejection even when none is present. You second-guess your words, your talents, even your instincts. Over time, you no longer feel safe being yourself. That's not miscommunication. That's psychological damage. Ask yourself, do you feel a weight in your chest when they speak? Do you prepare your words carefully just to avoid criticism? Do you feel like you've become less since being around them? These aren't red flags, they're sirens, and they're screaming for you to take your power back. What can you do about it? Let's break this into Stoic action steps. Reframe the problem. Criticism feels personal, but it's often a reflection of their inner dissatisfaction, not your worth. Seneca taught, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Don't let their words become your truth. Their opinion is not your identity. Set verbal boundaries. You don't need to beg. You don't need to defend. You only need one clear sentence. I'm not open to that kind of criticism. That felt dismissive. Let's speak respectfully. That's not helpful and I won't engage with it. Speak calmly. Speak once. Let silence do the rest. Watch for reactions. If they respond with defensiveness, deflection, or guilt-tripping, you're not in a safe space. That's your cue to step back, emotionally or physically. If they genuinely adjust, reflect, and change, great. But if they double down, don't wait for a miracle. Stoicism teaches acceptance of reality, not endurance of abuse. Distance. When needed, this doesn't mean you hate them, it means you value yourself. Limit conversations. Leave when they start to cross the line, or if the damage is long-term and unchanging, walk away altogether. Because no history, no bloodline, no obligation is worth the cost of losing yourself. This is where you draw the line. If someone in your life is constantly chipping away at who you are, you owe it to yourself to stop accepting it. Stop laughing it off. Stop explaining their behavior. Stop calling it normal. Right now, take one action. Comment below if someone in your life fits this description and how you're taking your power back. Share this with a friend who's been tolerating quiet cruelty for too long. Subscribe to True Stoic Way to keep sharpening your clarity, building emotional armor, and living with unshakable dignity. Behavior number 2, boundary violations, the silent theft of autonomy. The greatest theft doesn't happen in the night. It happens in plain sight, when someone takes your freedom and calls it love. Let's get brutally honest. There's a type of violation that doesn't look like a crime. It doesn't scream, it doesn't strike, but it robs you all the same of your time, your space, your choices, your peace. This is boundary violation, and it's far more common than you think. The worst part, it often comes from people closest to you. The false logic you've been sold. If they love you, they can access anything. That's a lie. Love is not full access. Love is not entitlement. Love does not mean they get to walk through your emotional front door uninvited again and again and expect you to thank them for it. And yet, so many people, especially in families, have been trained to believe that closeness means no privacy, that affection means total control, and that saying no is disrespect. Let's burn that belief to the ground, right now. Real story, a key that became a symbol of control. I once spoke with a woman named Clara. Late 60s, warm, generous, raised 3 kids mostly on her own. She gave her adult son a spare key for emergencies. That key became an invitation. At first, he used it to drop off groceries, then to check on her. Soon, He was walking in unannounced, while she was sleeping, while she was showering, while she was trying to find one moment of peace. When she told him it made her uncomfortable, he laughed. "Mom, don't be ridiculous. I'm your son." That one sentence says everything you need to know about how boundary violators operate. They flip the script. They make your discomfort your fault. They weaponize love to justify intrusion. Boundary violations come in many forms. Friend who reads your private messages accidentally. A coworker who constantly brings up your personal life. A partner who insists on being involved in every detail of your schedule. A family member who walks into your space, physically or emotionally, without permission, then gaslights you when you protest. These moments may feel small, but small violations unchecked become your new normal. Before you know it, you no longer feel in control of your own time, energy, or even identity. That is the theft of autonomy, and it's deadly quiet. Why do people violate your boundaries? Because they were never taught to recognize them. Or worse, because they know exactly what they're doing. There are two kinds of violators. The unconscious overstepper. They mean well, but they don't get it. They grew up in environments where privacy didn't exist, where emotional access was demanded, not earned. They confuse love with ownership. They're not malicious, but they are dangerous if left unchecked. The calculated manipulator. These people test you intentionally. A subtle push here, a quiet disregard there. They watch what you allow. Then, they escalate, and when you finally draw the line, they say you're cold, dramatic, ungrateful. Classic gaslighting. Classic control. The Stoic perspective. Respect is a requirement, not a reward. No person is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus' Stoicism teaches self-governance. That means you, not your relatives, not your partner, not your friends, have the final say on how your time, energy, and space are used. Boundaries are not selfish. They're not rude. They're not optional. They are a declaration of dignity. What happens when you don't set boundaries? You lose your ability to relax. You feel watched, invaded, monitored. You second-guess every no you say. You begin to feel like your life is no longer fully your own. That's not love. That's slow erasure. And the longer it goes on, the more you internalize the lie that you don't have the right to protect yourself. The Stoic Action Plan, Reclaiming Your Space 1. Recognize the pattern. Start with this question. Do I feel empowered after spending time with them, or drained, cornered and invaded? If your gut tightens when they approach, if you find yourself rehearsing conversations in your head, if you dread a phone call or an unexpected visit, that's your nervous system screaming for space. Listen, communicate clearly, not emotionally. Boundaries are not threats. They are agreements. Say things like, "Please call before coming over." "I'm not comfortable sharing that information. That's not something I'm willing to discuss. I need time alone, today." You don't owe an explanation. You owe yourself peace. Expect resistance. Be unshakable. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will not like your new ones. Expect them to push back. Stay calm. Stay grounded. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who caused the injury." Don't mirror their manipulation. Mirror their disappointment with calm refusal. If the line keeps getting crossed, act. Boundaries without consequences are noise. Limit contact. Change the locks. Refuse to engage in the same old conversations. Walk away when necessary. Every time you allow violation without response, you teach them one thing. My lines are negotiable. Don't teach them that, ever. This is your moment of clarity. If someone has been walking through your emotional space without knocking, it's time to close the door. Say no without apology. Cut access not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Stop waiting for them to understand and start requiring it. Right now, comment below with a boundary you're setting starting today. Share this with someone who's lost control of their space. Subscribe to True Stoic Way if you're ready to build a life where peace is protected and privacy is non-negotiable. Because protecting your boundaries isn't harsh, it's heroic. Final reminder, you are allowed to own your space. You are allowed to say, "This is mine." You are allowed to enforce peace, not just pray for it. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. From this point forward, let it be known, your energy is sacred, your space is sovereign, and your silence will no longer be an invitation for trespass. Let's keep going. The next step is yours to take. Behavior number 3, psychological manipulation, rewriting your reality. They don't scream, they don't threaten, they smile and twist the truth until you no longer trust your own mind. This is what makes psychological manipulation so dangerous. It's not violent, it's not loud. It doesn't even look wrong. At first, it hides behind soft voices, logical excuses, and endless misunderstandings. But what it actually does is turn your reality into a battleground, not between you and them, but between you and your own mind. What is psychological manipulation? It's not just lying. It's not just exaggerating. It's a deliberate strategy to confuse, control, and disarm you emotionally, to make you doubt your instincts, question your memory, and eventually surrender your truth to theirs. This is gaslighting. This is mind control wrapped in affection, and the longer it goes unchecked, the more you become a visitor in your own reality. Real story. The woman who thought she was losing her mind. Let's talk about Elise. She was intelligent, articulate, independent, until she met James. He was charming, thoughtful, supportive at first. But slowly things shifted. He'd say something cruel, then deny it. "I never said that. You must have misunderstood." He'd flirt with other women, then accuse her of being paranoid. "You're always overreacting. You see what you want to see." He started rewriting their arguments. "You were the one yelling. You said that first. I was just trying to help." Every time Elise tried to express a concern, the response was the same. Deflect, deny, blame. After months of this, she wasn't just confused, she was broken. She didn't trust her feelings anymore. She started apologizing for things she didn't even do. "I think I'm going crazy," she told me once. "No, Elise, you weren't crazy. You were being manipulated." How to recognize psychological manipulation? You won't always see it immediately, but your body will feel it first. Signs include you feel exhausted after every conversation with them. You constantly second-guess your memory. You start apologizing for your emotions. You doubt your right to feel what you feel. Manipulation doesn't just attack your perspective. It attacks your permission to trust yourself. It slowly replaces your voice with theirs. And once that happens, you don't just lose clarity. You lose control. Why gaslighting works so well? Because it doesn't come all at once. It comes drip by drip. Subtle, measured, strategic. A little sarcasm here, a mild denial there. A subtle, "You're too sensitive," dropped casually in a fight eventually. You stop pushing back. You start shrinking. You begin to rely on their version of the truth because yours feels unstable. That's not a communication issue. That's a psychological cage. The Stoic lens. Truth is the foundation of inner peace. If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. Marcus Aurelius, truth is sacred to the Stoics. They understood that clarity is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. Gaslighting is the opposite of this. It doesn't just cloud your judgment, it corrupts your entire internal world. A Stoic does not live by convenience. A Stoic lives by reality. So when someone consistently warps the truth, You're not just being disrespected, you are being spiritually undermined. The long-term effects of psychological manipulation. If you've been manipulated long enough, you start asking permission to speak. You lose joy in being yourself. You apologize for existing too much. You suppress your instincts until they stop speaking to you. And here's the tragic part. You begin to believe that you're the problem. You carry guilt that isn't yours. You internalize blame that was never meant for you. This is not love. This is erasure. The Stoic Action Plan, Breaking the Manipulation Cycle 1. Stop trying to convince them. A manipulator does not seek clarity. They seek control. Every time you try to explain, defend, or prove your point, you feed them more material to distort. Instead of arguing, start observing. Let them reveal themselves. Document everything. Keep a journal. Record conversations. Note contradictions. Track how often your memory fails around this person. You are not doing this to fight them. You're doing it to find yourself again. Facts restore power. Test your reality with outside perspectives. Talk to someone neutral. Describe the situation. Ask if they'd feel the same. Spoiler, they will. When a trusted outsider validates your reality, you begin to rebuild trust in your own mind. Re-establish emotional sovereignty. Epictetus taught, no one has power over you unless you allow it. Take your inner world back. Refuse to argue when gaslit. Exit conversations that go in circles. Walk away from people who constantly rewrite truth. This isn't weakness. This is philosophical resilience. Set a firm consequence. Boundaries are not threats, they are guardrails. Tell them, if this continues, I will limit how we speak. I don't engage in conversations that distort what I said. This pattern needs to stop, or I will step away. Then follow through. Because empty boundaries are worse than none at all. Enough silence. If someone has been manipulating your mind, making you feel like your feelings are fake, twisting your words, your memory, your truth, end it. Today. Take these steps now. Comment below, I choose truth over confusion. Share this with someone who's been gaslit for far too long. Subscribe to True Stoic Way to rebuild your mind, reclaim your clarity, and live by reality, not someone else's version of it. Final reminder, you are not too emotional. You are not overreacting. You are not losing it. You are being pulled out of alignment, and it's time to come back to yourself. Let today be the day you stop negotiating with manipulators. Let it be the day you stop apologizing for your truth. Let it be the day you say, I trust myself, and I won't let anyone take that away again. This is your line in the sand. Let's keep going. Behavior and before chronic dishonesty, the corrosion of trust. A lie doesn't just damage the relationship, it fractures your sense of reality. Let's be very clear. Dishonesty, no matter how small, how casual, how well dressed, is a breach of integrity. It doesn't matter if it was to protect your feelings or avoid drama or because they forgot. When someone lies to you again and again, they are making a simple statement. My comfort is more important than your clarity, and that is not love. That is not professionalism. That is not friendship. That is control. Real story, a web of lies in broad daylight. Let's talk about Nathan. He had a longtime friend and business partner named Mark. They'd built something together from scratch. 10 years of effort, trust, and loyalty. Or so Nathan thought. Mark began making small changes to their financials, moving money, delaying reports, hiding contracts. When confronted, he smiled and said, relax, it's not a big deal, just temporary. He made promises, he explained everything. He sounded convincing, and Nathan believed him again and again. Until one day, Nathan opened the books himself, and the truth was undeniable. Mark had been lying for years. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was existential. "If I can't trust him," Nathan said, "what part of the last decade was even real?" This is what chronic dishonesty does. It doesn't just deceive you, it deconstructs you. It makes you question your memory, your choices, your judgment. It makes you ask the most dangerous question of all: how did I not see this sooner? What chronic dishonesty looks like. It's not always dramatic, in fact, it's often subtle. That's what makes it so dangerous. I never said that. It just slipped my mind. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. You're being paranoid, or the worst one. I was trying to protect you. That line doesn't protect. It manipulates. It says, I get to decide what you deserve to know. That's not love. It's arrogance. Repeated dishonesty has real consequences. You lose trust in others. You stop believing in consistency. You start expecting betrayal, even from people who are honest. You question your own instincts, even when they're screaming. Eventually, you stop asking for the truth. You stop looking for it. You settle for not getting hurt too badly. That's not a relationship. That's survival mode. The Stoic perspective: truth is not optional. It is the foundation. No man is good by accident. Virtue must be taught and practiced. Seneca: honesty is not a personality trait. It is a discipline, a commitment, a virtue. And Stoics were uncompromising about it. They didn't lie to avoid conflict. They didn't twist truth to look good. They believed that a person who cannot be honest cannot be trusted with anything, especially your heart. So let's get this straight. If someone keeps lying to you, their words no longer matter. Their patterns do. The Stoic action plan: how to confront dishonesty with courage. Watch the behavior, not the apology. A chronic liar is often a skilled performer. They cry, they beg, they swear it won't happen again. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. Words are noise. Behavior is truth. Start paying attention to what they do, not what they say. Name the pattern out loud. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't joke about it. Don't make it easier for them to lie again. Say it like it is. You've lied more than once, and I'm no longer willing to ignore it. Trust doesn't survive repetition. It demands consistency. Hold them accountable. Not with rage, with clarity. Protect your own clarity. Lies are confusing. They make you feel like your reality is unstable. So reground yourself. Keep notes of repeated inconsistencies. Track how often accidents or small lies happen. Ask trusted friends, would you be okay with this? Spoiler, they wouldn't. You're not overreacting. You're waking up. Set boundaries with consequences. Let them know. I will no longer pretend this is okay. If you lie again, the dynamic changes. My trust is earned, not given on credit. If the lying continues, you step back. Emotionally, physically, relationally, and yes, sometimes that means walking away. Not as punishment, but as self-preservation. It's time to stop letting people lie to you because you're too kind to walk away. Stop ignoring your instincts. Stop calling it no big deal. Stop accepting empty promises. Do this now. Comment below, I choose truth, even when it's hard. Share this with someone who's been stuck in a cycle of lies. Subscribe to True Stoic Way to build relationships rooted in truth, clarity, and unshakable dignity. Final reminder: they didn't lie by accident. They lied because they thought you wouldn't act. But you're not the same anymore. You're not here to preserve someone else's comfort at the expense of your clarity. You are here to see clearly, to act boldly, to live freely. Because trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but only with honesty, consistency, and time. And if that's not what they're offering, then they no longer get access to the most sacred part of your life, your trust. Let's keep going. Behavior number 5. Disrespect disguised as humor. Mockery behind a smile. It's just a joke. Don't take it so seriously. You're being too sensitive. You've heard it. You've smiled through it. You've laughed when something inside you tightened. That's not humor. That's humiliation with a punchline, and it's one of the most socially accepted forms of disrespect we allow, especially from people we love. What does this behavior look like? It shows up as jokes about your body, your weight, your age, comments about your career choices, relationships, or lifestyle, sarcastic remarks that disguise criticism as just being honest, public mockery followed by the classic defense. Relax, I'm only kidding. But you're not laughing, because beneath the joke is a blade aimed at your dignity, your self-esteem, your identity, and every time you don't say anything, it cuts deeper. Real story, a joke that broke a decade of silence. Let's talk about Mia. She was in her 70s, retired, smart, gentle, quietly proud of surviving a difficult divorce and building a life of her own. Her brother, he called himself the funny one. At every family gathering, he'd drop comments like, "Surprised? Your ex didn't take the house too? Still single, huh? You really missed the boat." That haircut screams, "I've given up." Every time he followed it with a laugh. Everyone else laughed too, so Mia stayed silent. Until one Thanksgiving when he said, "Your ex didn't leave you. He escaped." The room fell quiet, and Mia stood up and walked out. She didn't speak to him again for 2 years. It wasn't the insult, she told me. It was realizing I'd let him sharpen his tongue on my back for 40 years and called it love. Let's be very clear. Disrespect is disrespect, no matter how cleverly it's disguised. Just because someone smiles when they say it doesn't mean it's not meant to wound, and if the laughter only goes one way, it's not humor, it's power. Why we tolerate it? Because it's normalized. Because calling it out makes you the problem. Because we were taught to laugh it off. But here's the cost. You start censoring yourself. You start anticipating humiliation. You start shrinking in the presence of people who should uplift you. Eventually, you begin to believe that you're the one who's broken for not finding it funny. You're not. You're awake. The Stoic lens: words must heal, not harm. Let your words be used as a physician uses a scalpel, to heal, not to wound. Marcus Aurelius: true Stoicism doesn't avoid truth, but it demands precision, wisdom, and compassion. Brutal honesty isn't virtue. It's cowardice wearing a clever mask. Real truth uplifts, real honesty respects, and real connection doesn't come at the expense of someone's dignity. Long-term impact of humor-based disrespect: loss of self-worth, heightened anxiety in social settings, passive acceptance of mistreatment, gradual deterioration of trust and closeness in relationships. What begins as harmless jokes often turns into emotional corrosion. It's not about one comment, it's about the pattern. And patterns create culture, especially inside relationships. If someone regularly gets away with mockery, the relationship becomes a stage. You perform silence. They perform superiority. That's not love. That's entertainment at your expense. The Stoic action plan: turning disrespect into a line you no longer allow crossed. Stop laughing at what hurts. You're not weak for feeling the sting. You're wise for acknowledging it. Next time someone throws a punchline at your expense, ask yourself, would I let a stranger speak to me like this? If this weren't a joke, would it still be okay? Because if it only gets a pass because it's funny, it's probably not. Call it what it is, with calm clarity. You don't need to explode, you just need to be honest. That didn't feel like a joke to me. That hurt. Please don't say that again. If that's humor, I'm not laughing. You're not overreacting. You're drawing a boundary, and anyone who makes you feel guilty for doing that was never joking to begin with. Expect the pushback and hold your ground. They'll say, "You've changed. You're so uptight now. You used to be fun." Good. You're not fun for people who feed off your discomfort anymore. As Epictetus said, "Seek not to please, but to be free." This is you choosing freedom. Withdraw access if disrespect continues. This isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting your peace. Reduce contact. Walk away from conversations. Step out of rooms where you're being used for sport. You don't owe presence to people who use proximity as a license for cruelty. If someone's been joking at your expense, today is the day you stop accepting it. Stop pretending. It's not a big deal. Stop making yourself smaller to avoid another jab. Stop calling it love when it feels like humiliation. Do this now. Comment below, "I no longer laugh at disrespect." Share this with someone who's been the punchline for too long. Subscribe to True Stoic Way and reclaim the strength to speak up, set standards, and live with unshakable self-respect. Final reminder, you're allowed to say, "That's not funny. That's not love. That's not okay." You're allowed to leave the conversation, the room, the relationship, if the only way to stay is to keep getting cut with words. Dignity is not up for negotiation, not with strangers, not with family, not with anyone. From this day forward, make it clear. I will no longer participate in my own disrespect. Let that be your line, and never let them cross it again. Conclusion. Protecting yourself is not selfish. It's your responsibility. The people who hurt you the most aren't always strangers. Sometimes they're the ones who once made you feel safest. Throughout this journey, we've exposed 5 toxic behaviors that are often ignored, especially when they come from those closest to us, family, longtime friends, or trusted partners. Not because you're naive, not because you're weak, but because society taught you that love equals tolerance, that closeness means silence. But now, the truth can no longer be ignored. No one has the right to criticize you daily and call it advice. No one has the right to cross your boundaries and expect your gratitude. No one has the right to manipulate your emotions and blame you for being too sensitive. No one has the right to lie repeatedly and demand your trust. And certainly, no one has the right to disrespect you and excuse it with laughter. The hard truth is this: anyone, yes, even family, who doesn't respect you, doesn't deserve unrestricted access to your life. Love is not a license to control. Family is not a free pass for abuse. And you should never sacrifice your dignity just to maintain a connection that's already corroded. So what do? You stay aware. Awareness isn't paranoia. Awareness means you know exactly who contributes to your growth and who silently chips away at your peace. Awareness means you don't remain silent to keep others comfortable. You speak up to protect yourself. Awareness doesn't mean you react with rage. It means you respond with reason. Stoicism, the philosophy that keeps you calm. In chaos, Stoicism doesn't teach you to become cold. It teaches you to become steadfast. It doesn't ask you to suppress emotion. It teaches you how to manage your reactions to what you can't control. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What can you control? The boundaries you set, the attitude you uphold, the decision you make when someone crosses the line. You don't need to hate. You just need to refuse to tolerate harm, no matter who it comes from. That's real strength. Not screaming, not fighting, but calm clarity, steady refusal, bold decisions. Redraw your boundaries, this time in steel, not sand. You've forgiven. You've looked the other way. You've said, "It's not worth making a scene." But now you know. Every time you stay silent, you teach others that they can continue. Every time you laugh it off, you tell yourself that your pain isn't that serious. And every time you call disrespect just a joke, you trade your dignity for someone else's comfort. No more. You can love someone and still not allow them to hurt you. You can care about a relationship and still draw a firm line. You can be compassionate and still uphold your non-negotiable self-worth. Starting today. Starting now. If you've made it this far, then you're strong enough to face uncomfortable truths. Now it's time to act. How? Set boundaries. Write down 3 things you will no longer tolerate in any relationship. Speak up. When someone crosses a line, say it. Calmly but clearly. Stand your ground. Don't reverse your boundaries just because someone feels offended. Reevaluate. Who gets access to you? Not everyone deserves your stories, your energy, or your emotional world. You don't need to become cold. You just need to be clear about your values and unwavering in your standards. A peaceful life is not a luxury. It's a right. You deserve peace. You deserve relationships that nourish you, not drain you. You deserve to be heard without being mocked. You deserve to be trusted without being controlled. You deserve to be respected, not because you're agreeable, but because you're a human being with dignity. Freedom, peace, and self-respect don't come from pleasing everyone. They come from knowing exactly who you are and never letting anyone reshape you for their comfort. Final reflection: repeat this every time you feel uncertain. My peace is not up for negotiation. My respect for others does not require me to tolerate their abuse. I was not born to be manipulated, diluted, or molded into someone else's idea of acceptable. I was born to live honestly, with dignity, boundaries, and freedom. Protect yourself. Because if you don't, someone will use your kindness to slowly destroy you, quietly and without warning. You're strong enough to recognize what's harmful. Now it's time to be stronger and walk away from it. That's not selfish. That's maturity. Are you ready? If yes, comment, "I protect my boundaries." And if you know someone who needs this message, share it. One small action on your part could help someone else reclaim themselves. If this message stirred something in you, if you finally see what you've been tolerating, if you're done shrinking yourself to protect others' comfort, then you're exactly where you need to be. This is True Stoic Way, a space not for people who want easy answers, but for those who want inner clarity, unshakable dignity, and real peace. So if you're ready to draw boundaries without guilt, speak truth without fear, build strength rooted in reason, not rage, then take your next step. Subscribe to True Stoic Way, because we don't chase comfort here. We pursue character. Comment below. I live with clarity. Let the world know your boundaries are no longer suggestions. Share this video with someone still stuck in silent suffering. Be the reason they reclaim their voice. This isn't just a channel. It's a movement, a path for those who've decided that self-respect is no longer optional. Stay grounded, stay sharp, stay stoic. This is the True Stoic Way.